our rights are at stake, but Julian's life is at stake. If he is extradited, he will lose his life. He will be killed. He will be killed by the country that has been plotting his assassination. And the court heard how the United States, under the previous administration, which may be the next administration, had plotted to assassinate him, who had plotted to poison him, who had plotted to kidnap him, who had plotted to rendition him. Shame! Shame on those who put journalists in prison. Shame on those who murder journalists. Shame on those who are afraid of the truth. That's not a society I want to live in. We're better than that. The UK courts are also under scrutiny. They have heard about the murder plots against my husband. They are on notice that the country that is trying to extradite him has planned to murder him. They don't deny it. They just change the subject. The whole time we were in court, the other side somehow avoided to talk about what the documents Julian published revealed. They didn't talk about the war crimes. They didn't talk about the 15,000 civilian killings in Iraq that were revealed. They didn't talk about their torture and rendition program. They didn't talk about Guantanamo Bay. They simply changed the subject. Shame. This case is brought by criminals who want to maintain their impunity, who want to avoid the courts. They are the fugitives from justice, not Julian. Julian is justice. He is transparency. He is us. He is the public. And as long as Julian remains in prison, we are all in prison. And they are free. It cannot be. Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange! Be there for Julian. He would be there for you. He is there for you. He needs to be free. Free Assange!
Free Assange! Free Assange! And my next speaker has observed many of these hearings in the Assange case. For Reporters Without Borders, please give a warm welcome for Rebecca Vincent.
In these past 2 days, we have heard nothing new from the U.S. government. We have heard them double down on the same arguments that they've been making for 13 years, and in particular since the superseding indictment was issued. Again, we're seeing attempts to make exceptions for Julian Assange. Why his human rights don't matter. Why normal protections for journalists don't matter. We've heard this before. We heard how even though they knew his state of mental health, they knew his risk of suicide, how, oh no, it would be okay, send him here anyways. Now we're seeing that in an attempt to distance the journalistic community from him and all of us. But let me be very clear, this case is about journalism. It is about press freedom. If they make an exception of Julian Assange, the rule will be broken. And no one, no journalist, no publisher, no journalistic source, no media organization can ever be confident that their rights will be respected again. We will see an immediate and distinct chilling effect, in particular on national security reporting. This is absolutely about journalism. We are deeply concerned for Julian Assange's current situation. This is the first time he was granted permission to attend court in 3 years. So the fact that he wasn't there speaks volumes about his current situation. The fact that he couldn't even attend online tells us how he's feeling. I saw him myself in prison a few weeks ago with a broken rib, in pain and coughing a lot from a respiratory illness. So we're concerned about his physical health as well as his mental health. So while this case is being decided in these courts, and while the strings are being pulled 4,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., this man is in a prison cell tonight, a few miles from us here. We must remember him. We must not let his situation deteriorate further. So we still hope that at this late stage, there can be some justice delivered from the British system. The world is watching. And if not here, then Strasbourg. And it is imperative that if these courts fail to protect journalism and press freedom by protecting Julian Assange, it is imperative that his right to appeal to the European Court of Human Rights is respected, that the UK abides by its European Convention obligations, and that no move is made to extradite him whilst that process is ongoing. It is essential. If this country is going to stand for the rule of law, they must abide by this, by their international obligations. And we are here at Downing Street. This is still within the UK's power to do the right thing, but let's not let Washington off the hook. I hope they're watching from across the ocean as well. This is a political case, and if justice isn't possible here in the British courts, our call still remains on the Biden administration to drop these charges, to close this case. A political solution could be found. It is a question of political will. So let's not let them off the hook either. Our call remains to free Assange. And there is only one decision: no extradition.
Thank you, Rebecca. And there is no one who's reported as effectively, has campaigned as effectively for Julian Assange as Craig Murray.
Thank you, everyone. Absolutely wonderful to see you all. And I want to start off by thanking you from the bottom of our hearts, all of you who have stood out in the cold and the rain this last 2 days to support Julian Assange. It's been a really, really fantastic effort. Thank you. And we are a community that shows the sort of democracy that Julian dreams of, where freedom of information empowers people and puts power back from the hands of the politicians into the hands of the people. And I see here people I have been seeing for more than 10 years, people who I saw standing in the cold and the wet outside the Ecuadorian embassy, people I saw day in, day night who have been campaigning. And it has not been without effect. We have turned around public opinion on Julian Assange and on this case. And we have done that to the extent that the establishment now have to listen. And yesterday and today in the court, I sat there in the courtroom. I wish you could all have been there, because firstly, Julian's legal team did a fantastic job. And secondly, I saw something I would not have said in 5 years of these legal processes. For the first time, I saw judges who were actually listening intelligently and paying attention to what the defense says. And we have done that. We have done that because they can no longer ignore us. They can no longer scorn us. And we heard, in a UK court, we heard Julian's defense outline the war crimes of the United States. We heard lawyers, eminent KCs, speak to the bench and talk of massacre, and talk of torture, and talk of drone killings, and talk of killings of journalists, and talk of systematic war crimes committed by the United States and its allies, and what Julian has done to expose that. You know, yesterday in the United Nations, the United States vetoed a ceasefire resolution on Gaza, and the United Kingdom, as its cowardly little henchman, abstained alongside it. And we are fighting the same thing. We have here the United States trying to destroy Julian Assange, and the United Kingdom as its cowardly little henchman, keeping him in Belmarsh jail. We will not stand for it. This will not last. It is essential to the freedom of all of us that Julian is released, because he stands for freedom of information and for the right of people to know what governments are secretly doing in their name and with their resources. We are fighting a noble battle, and it is a battle which is turning, and a battle which will win, and it's a battle fundamentally for the very kind of society we wish to live in. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Craig. And now, for the last speech of this evening, I'm very pleased to welcome back to the podium the organiser of the Free Assange campaign in the United States, Vince Stefano.
Thank you, John. Brothers and sisters, I stand before you in shame for the government that represents me. I wish to quote the words of President Joe Biden stated on May 3rd, World Press Freedom Day. Journalists, uncover the truth. Check the abuse of power. Demand transparency from those in power. They are indispensable to the functioning of democracy. He and his administration go forward and say that journalism is not a crime. Those words are ashes in their mouth. The utter hypocrisy of my government shines in that courtroom. And it is incumbent upon us, all of us, to say no to the hegemony of the United States, say no to the Biden administration, and say yes to the freedom of journalists and journalism around the world. Julian must be free. Free Assange! Free Assange! Free Assange now! Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for demonstrating for the last 2 days. You've been outside that court for 2 days. You've done absolutely brilliantly. And nothing that we say from this platform is as important as you being there. Every speaker on this platform is simply a mirror for the protesters and the demonstrators and the activists who are fighting to free Julian Assange. So stay strong and stay mobilised and stay fighting. And remember, one of the slogans, one of the oldest slogans in the business of popular mobilisation is educate, agitate, mobilise. Take that home with you, continue to do it, stay safe, stay fighting, solidarity.